All right, I'm Jeff Anderson. This is Mike Finnegan, and we are here today to talk about the case that we have filed this morning. And as we do, we're here with a great sense of sadness, sorrow, and frankly, a grave concern. It's not the first time we've had to be here. But again, we are faced with a cruel and continuing reality. And this morning, and actually over the weekend, a very courageous survivor who we've identified as Jane Doe 20 brought and served this lawsuit against Michael Jerome Keating, a priest who as of Friday was in ministry and on the faculty of St. Thomas. We're going to talk about three things. First, the courage of Jane Doe and what he did to her and the circumstances of that. Second, what she brought to the Archdiocese. And third, how they handled it and failed to handle it in a way that both helped her and protected other kids. First, this suit is brought by Jane Doe 20 because she doesn't have to use her name. And we applaud her courage in taking this action because for years she suffered in silence. She came to know this then seminarian through her family, who had come to know this seminarian for a long time as a family friend. He was a trusted and revered figure in her life and in her family's life. And she and they are and were devout Catholics. This seminarian became her advisor and insinuated himself into her life, spiritual and personal, and served his perverse needs by declaring a love relationship with her when she was 13 years old and he was 42. She thought it was love, and she thought she was loved by him. But what he did was lay his hands upon her in a way that was then perverse but not understood by her to be anything other than love. He went to Rome and continued studies and became a priest in 2002. She suffered and struggled and overwhelmed with confusion, overwhelmed with feelings of conflict, and finally at some point in time came to realize through a class she took that what he had done to her was sexual abuse. And at that time, in 2004, she confronted him with what she now realized. And it was in 2006 that she finally mustered the courage and the will to bring forth what she had experienced. And she brought it to the people she trusted and that would be the archdiocese, the archbishop, and those in charge of this then priest. And she brought it to Archbishop Flynn's office, and the independent review board, did you hear that? Independent review board heard her plea. Kevin McDonough, then chancellor, investigated this matter. Archbishop, then Harry Flynn, Archbishop Flynn, presided this investigation. Then Chancellor of Civil Affairs, Andy Eisenzimmer, and others were involved, and ultimately they questioned her so many times about this report, about this trusted priest, that she finally said, look, I'll put it on a video and give it to you. So she did. She then was called before the independent review board. And at the independent review board, a panel sat, and she poured her heart out again about what had happened. And sometime after that, the independent review board, appointed and presided by the Archbishop, made a determination in the name of the Archbishop that there was insufficient evidence of sexual abuse of her. And this would be a statement. Kelly Glassow is a paralegal in this office. Glassow. I've asked her to read the statement of Jane Doe 20. And these are her words prepared by her for folks to know a bit about her struggle and why she took this action today. Kelly, please.
Coming to terms with the fact that I was sexually abused by Father Michael Keating has been the most painful realization of my life. I carried this burden alone for so long because I never imagined that a man I believed to be so good and holy could ever do something so selfish and hurtful to a child. When I could no longer bear to carry this on my own, I went to the Archdiocese in 2006, hopeful that they would believe me, stand by me, and do what they could to bring protection and healing. My trust was betrayed. As they diminished the pain I had suffered through for so long, and I was truly re-victimized when they tried to prove me wrong and keep Father Keating in ministry. I do not exaggerate when I say that what Father Keating did to me has caused me indescribable suffering. I have a strong faith and a deep love for Jesus Christ and the Catholic Church. I also believe that every child has the right to innocence. This is why I cannot stay quiet any longer.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you particularly to Jane Doe for not only sharing that statement, but finding the voice, bringing it forth in 2006, and now having the courage to stand up to Keating. And she stood up and took this action and initiated it on Friday because she really doesn't want this to happen to others. She doesn't want others in ministry and not known to the public, like Keating, to abuse kids. And she doesn't want others who do bring the truth forth like she did in 2006 to be re-victimized by, as to use her words, by a process appointed and controlled by the Archbishop, in which she wasn't believed, and that suppressed her and harmed her and put salt in the wounds that she shared and opened for them. Based on the record as a whole, the board finds there is insufficient evidence to support a finding of sexual abuse of a minor in violation of the charter. It begs the question, how many more kids and survivors who come forward like her at the age in the early 20s who was abused as a teen, they found insufficient evidence? How many more? Then they go on to state the board does not believe that the priest faculties should be suspended given his effectiveness in many areas of his work. How many more are there out there who they choose to believe are so effective as priests that they will choose to imperil our children and in this community by a decision such as this? How many more? Bob Dylan asked the question, how many times can a man turn his head pretending he just doesn't see? How many ears must one man have before he can hear people cry? How many times has this archbishop and his predecessors turned their eye and their ear? How many times do we have to stand before you with and for survivors like this that have shared the secret, only to be turned a blind eye and a deaf ear? How many? How many more? The reason the decision was made by this courageous young woman who's now in her late 20s, who brought this forth in her early 20s, who reposed her trust in the seminarian in her teens, forward is because she was emboldened by some of the recent revelations and could carry this and the burdens that had been imposed upon her, first by the seminarian, the priest, and then by the archdiocese, and the weight of that she had carried for so many years, a weight upon her. And in so many ways she was so conflicted because she's so devout. She's so devout that it was not until recent revelations in the last week that made her finally say, I cannot carry this any longer. I cannot carry this any longer. Nothing independent about the review board that looked at this in 2006. It was appointed and controlled by the then Archbishop. What we also know is that given the recent revelations that the new review board that now has been appointed again, all good people, well intended, are nonetheless controlled by whom? The current Archbishop. And as long as the Archbishop controls, appoints, and then misleads the people into believing that they are doing something different than what they've done in the past, we are all misled by that. And so we are here to share the sorrow, to praise Jane Doe for being willing to call them out and share her experience, so that in the final analysis the reality can be better known and better exposed, that things have not changed much from the first time I stood before the cameras in Minneapolis and St. Paul in 1984. And it was in that context that the sexual contact with this then 13-year-old began. And it began by rubbing. It began by taking his hands and putting it upon her breast, and having him lay upon her or her upon him. And at the time she was overwhelmed with this. She had never been kissed by a man, and when he gave her a kiss before he left for Rome, it was a French kiss, but she didn't know what it was, and she didn't realize even what a French kiss was until she was actually kissed by a man her own age, which triggered flashbacks. No, he laid his hands upon her, on her body in a way that would be criminal sexual conduct in the second degree. that is the touching of the breasts or the buttocks or the genitals. In this case, it was fondling the breast and rubbing his erect penis against her and having her lay upon him. No, we're not suing the Archdiocese today. We're taking this action with and on behalf of Jane Doe to do what needs to be done first. That is expose the risk that Father Keating poses to others in the community. And this is the way you do it, through a lawsuit. And so it's a lawsuit directly against him.
So what are you seeking in the lawsuit besides?
We're seeking to expose that he is a risk. We were seeking to make sure that he is removed from any ministry, that his faculties are removed, that he is exposed, that the community is warned, and what we want is other kids to not be at risk and other families to not trust him the way this family did. That's what we want today.